Hello, everybody. I'm going to fade out the hold music here. Welcome on this Friday evening and to the spring concert for Roger Williams University, our music department, Department of Performing Arts. And tonight, let's see, I'm going to tell you who I am first. And that is me here. It's Elliot Miles McKinley, composer, improviser, teacher. I am associate professor of music at Roger Williams University. I teach composition, music theory, music technology, electronic music, all that kind of stuff. And it's a real pleasure for me to introduce tonight's featured ensemble, Hub New Music. My head is in the way. Well, you saw the placard earlier, but there we go. Hub New Music. Uh, Wait, these guys over here. They're friends of mine. They're a Boston-based ensemble, particularly specializing in new music by living composers. They commission music. They play many new pieces throughout their concert season, and they've been active for a number of years. Um, and it's also a double pleasure for me because several of my composition students in my spring composition studio, three of them, wrote pieces for Hub, and Hub New Music is performing them as part of tonight's concert, along with two of their touring works that they have for their season here. So we have that queued up and prepared for you tonight. Normally, we would be somewhere probably in Bristol at the Art Museum or at the Performing Arts Center, and I would normally have to tell you to, silence your phone and all that stuff. So I don't get to do all of that, but this is a slightly new way of doing things. So I enjoyed tonight's concert. What we're going to do is we'll play the concert. It's about 40 or so plus minutes of music as continuous. The pieces will be announced on the video as the concert progresses. And then at the end of the concert, we're going to come back and have a little sort of post-concert reception, short 10-15 minute conversation with Mike Evitable, who's the founder of Hub New Music and the flutist for Hub New Music, and also a few of the composers, the student composers that wrote pieces for tonight's concert, and we'll field some questions. So please stick around after the concert. Feel free to ask any questions. They can be about any of the pieces performed. Could be about performance practice. Who knows? So hope to hear from you. Also, I'll be monitoring throughout the concert the Facebook and YouTube chat. So please feel free to say hello, introduce yourself, and give kudos to our performers and to our fine composers today. So I guess without further ado, I will leave you in the perfectly, wonderfully capable hands of Hub New Music for our concert tonight. And we'll see you in just a little bit.
Hi, my name is Takuma Ito, the composer of the next piece, Wavelengths. It's such a great honor to be included in this video concert with Hub New Music. I've gotten to know these musicians over the past several years, and this is actually my second piece for them. With the first piece that I composed for them, called Faded Aura, I had the chance to follow them around on a tour of Japan with the Asia America New Music Institute, and I marveled at their dedication performing the same works so many times over the course of 2 weeks. It got me thinking how each performance can vary, and how I as the composer could sew some actual chaos into the music itself so that no two performances could ever sound alike. So when I composed Wavelengths, I designed the piece to go in and out of passages where not everybody is playing together in the same tempo. Sometimes everybody is off on their own, playing at their own tempos. At other times you'll hear two of them trying to keep things aligned in one tempo while the other two are seemingly ignoring them, by design of course. And other times they're playing together in one single tempo as they normally would. As a result, no two performances will ever sound exactly the same. There's, of course, an element of risk involved when the music is not supposed to align in some moments on purpose and then sync back together perfectly in other moments. But knowing how much these folks with Hub rehearsed and played together, I knew they would have no problems with it and actually make each performance really unique. I hope you enjoy this performance of Wavelengths. Thank you.
we are Hub New Music. My name is Alyssa.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Nicholas.
And I'm Mike. We're really excited tonight to present 3 new works by Roger Williams composers right here from our home studio. We're going to pair those works with 2 other works that are previously recorded from our touring repertoire. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Enjoy the stream and hope to see you soon.
Hey everyone, it's Katya Goch, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about Rogue Emoji, the new mixed quartet that I wrote last year for Hub New Music, the wonderful ensemble here in Boston. And Rogue Emoji is really an exploration of order versus control and the embrace of chaos. And it's about 14 minutes long. It's structured in a series of 6 miniatures which flow together without pause. And since each miniature has its own texture and emotion, there are a lot of mercurial changes, hence the title. The piece has dialectics, dichotomies of communication and alienation, disconnection and unity, dissolution and regeneration. So the piece completely falls apart in the middle and everyone is in their own world, but in the end, in the last movement, the idea, the ostinato which begins the piece returns and there's a fugue which gets hijacked, and then the opening idea returns and is finally allowed to fulfill itself after having been interrupted. So the piece ends in a state of affirmation, celebration of the shared resonance, both between the individual players and for the ensemble as a whole. I've really enjoyed writing this piece. It was an amazing collaboration, and I hope that you enjoy Rogue Emoji as performed by Hub New Music. I will be here in quarantine doing my thing, so thanks so much.
That was really great. Um, what a cool way to end the concert with kind of a bang. Everybody screaming. Um, this would be the time when there'd be a lot of clapping going on. So I hope there's a lot of virtual clapping going on. And where, in sort of normal times, we might have wine and cheese, or at least apple juice and cheese, or something like that. So we're going to have a little virtual version of that. And in just a moment, I'm going to be bringing in our guests to our virtual chat. I'm just going to make sure that I can actually see the chat windows. So that actually will help if I can move the chat windows over to the right screen. And there we go. So now I can see everybody at the same time. Okay, cool. So please, if you are here to join us, please ask questions, anything you want of our guests. So I'm going to now bring in our guests to the show, as it were. I get to be the show. Here we go. All right. So in my, let's see, I have to do this because that's like the opposite type of thing. In this corner up here is there's Mike, the flute player, Mike Invitable. And he's a phenomenal player. And if you're wondering what he was playing several flutes tonight. He played the concert flute, which is sort of like probably what everybody knows. And he also played alto flute, which is a little bit bigger and has that sort of nice throaty sound. And it was very popular during 1970s television shows. And then he also played the little piccolo, which you often hear in band music and in a lot of orchestra music. Anyway, so I just thought I'd highlight that. So that's our guest from Hub New Music. And then on this half here, we have two of the three composers. I'm going to actually try to bring in the third of the three, who kind of came in late and I couldn't frame his scene up particularly well. So if you see me, if the screen goes weird, it's probably me just messing around with OBS, which is actually what I'm using to do all this. But anyway, we have Josh Stiano, up at the top, and Logan D'Souza in the middle frame. And in fact, I'm going to help frame that a bit more. Anyway, folks, first of all, composers, how do you feel? In no particular order.
I just feel great. That was a really nice performance all around for all the pieces. And yeah, it just sounded really good.
Yeah. Josh, what about you? Josh, can you hear me? I'm not sure that Josh can hear me. He's looking confused. Okay, all right. Well, when Josh gets his audio together, we'll figure this out. Mike, first of all, congratulations. It was, I think it was a great.
Yeah, no, it was just definitely a great experience overall, and it was nice to have like such great musicians play our music. So
great,
no complaints.
Great. Josh, switch over to the Zoom chat because I think actually I know what happened. You're waiting for the YouTube or Facebook, so you're on tape delay. Josh is on tape delay. Does that make he'll get that in about 7 seconds or 8 seconds. Anyway, sorry, Mike. I was going to ask you. Well, I mean, obviously you've played the other two pieces before. I mean, and I think the concert, I mean, the way that you guys assembled, I didn't know how you do the order, but I thought it fit really nicely. You put the student works kind of in sandwiched between the if you will the seasoned veterans, although but by no means are they old. I don't mean it that way, but seasoned and experienced. So I just how do you feel about watching concerts of your own music? I mean, normally you'd be performing live, and this would be a live experience for you. So it is kind of a different, it is a different thing, and I think the other thing is when you curate concerts now, what are some of the factors that go in the curation of concerts such as these? You do many of these type of events.
Yeah. So to answer your first question, it's mortifying. I have taken up this habit of um, obsessively cleaning my house when concerts are airing, and that having that distraction of like scrubbing something kind of alleviates me having to watch my own performance. It's a super bizarre experience, and we're grateful that we've been able to record so many
Right.
with Athenaeum and our videography team, Scott and Dave. They're absolutely wonderful, and they made our lives happen this year. Um, I feel like we've grown a lot as an ensemble, just having so many opportunities to hear ourselves play the same repertoire over and over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of album projects coming
Hmm.
up. We're recording one next week and then another one next month. And so having these recording experiences so many times throughout the season and kind of getting into that headspace has been really helpful for us.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that said, I'm really excited to not have to watch every performance and small little agonizing mistake that I make on stage.
Right.
So that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
About curating
Exactly.
concerts, yeah. So not news. The works that we play are very new,
Hmm.
who are by composers who we love and think are absolutely brilliant, but they are don't have the same name recognition as like Brahms, Beethoven, Mozart.
Hmm.
So sometimes for an audience or a concert presenter, it can be a little bit scary when we come in with entire program of not even new music, like
Right.
very fresh ink written
Like
this
just
past
like
year
the
or
day,
so
or even
music.
the week before, right? Not usually, but I mean, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
ideally not, but that has happened.
Yeah.
But and so when we put concert programs together, we like to think of kind of larger programmatic concepts,
Hmm.
and very often that'll be something extra musical. The two works by Kati and Takuma that we aired tonight are
Hmm.
part of an entire program that's centered around Hans Hofmann paintings and abstract expressionists that we
Sure.
developed with a museum in Salem, and that we're been playing that program for a while. And the idea is these works are hyper colorful, very textural, extremely surreal at times.
And
All
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. No, no, no. Actually, it's interesting because I didn't make that connection. By the way, if folks at home, if you're watching your screen change, it is me playing around trying to frame the students as they came in. So if you notice some visual stuff going on, just ignore. Those are not the droids you're looking for. It was May the 4th a few days ago, so that's a Star Wars reference. But anyway, no. To answer to kind of reflect that, both of those pieces had. Um, it's very reductionist for me to say that they are impressionistic pieces or expressionistic pieces, but they definitely had the uh, those kinds of mm, pastel kind of colors, blending of colors, right? They had that kind of feel to it, but that's a very simplistic and reductionist way of sort of addressing music that is much deeper than that. But I mean, that's a programming decision on your part, right? When you sort of
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, those two pieces are part of a visual art
yeah,
inspired program. So coming back to those ideas of color and texture, and the variance and the large palette of those things was the concept behind that program. We really love that program because we feel that it speaks very well to the strengths of our instrumentation. That it
right,
is so colorful. There is
right.
so much possible
Mm-hmm.
with various instrumental combinations and the auxiliary instruments that you mentioned, and just this tiny little orchestra that we have in the group that gives us such a large sampling of sounds that we can choose from.
Yeah, yeah. So, if anybody is watching, we do have a number of viewers actually. So, you can lurk if you want, or you can ask us questions. I think I got everybody now framed in the scene. It looked a little chaotic before, so just listen to the conversation. It sounds better than it looks currently. Part of this is just because, I'm dealing with Zoom, and Zoom is and window capture and OBS and all this other kind of stuff that some of you may know about. But anyway, um, So I'm curious, composers. So the three of you now in the room. So this over gentleman over here, this is David Mcardle, the author of the first piece of the three student set of pieces. And then I have Josh. Josh, are you on Zoom time now? Or are you on still on tape delay?
I think everything's good now.
Okay, good, good. That was pretty interesting. I thought you didn't hear us, and then suddenly you responded to my question like 14 seconds later. Um, so, composers, what do you think of a concert like this? Now, first of all, you had your own music played, but you've also, I've taken you to concerts. You've heard Hub play before. They came to the art museum and played a concert. I think all of you were at that concert at least. If not, I think most of you were. What How do you feel about a concert such as this? And um, do you feel the love and care that an ensemble like this puts into the programming and the arc of a program? Because as Mike was alluding to, it is a process, and they have to think about how the works will stitch together, and maybe thematically, or maybe um, programmatically in some ways. Um, and you guys are young musicians, so I'm just curious about your response to that.
I
Anybody
would
can go. Yeah.
I would say absolutely. Like it's working with um, Hub has been an incredible experience as far as like getting to see them work through the process of like figuring out exactly what we want as composers and um, how to make things easier for them and how to help in a way where they help us get the vision that we want in the most ideal way possible. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was just the experience was really really cool.
What did you think of your piece being framed with, and you already knew the music of your colleagues, but being framed with, the I don't want to say the heavy hitters, but like the seasoned veterans of the composer world. I mean, how did you feel about that? Did you feel intimidated? Did you feel like, hey, I'm this is working? I'll leave that with David first.
Yeah. I feel like obviously there is just like a little bit of like intimidation, but not nearly as much as you'd think. Like I would say it's honestly kind of cool as well to like see how they work with music that we don't necessarily know. So it's like
Hmm.
we can them work with all of each other's pieces and observe that, but so
Yeah.
right before that, view it, especially with like the composer mindset that we're going into this concert with,
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
really unique experience. I think it's cool.
Hmm. Logan?
Yeah, so first I just wanted to touch on the first question
Yeah.
about just watching the concert on a live stream. And I just thought that was like, so obviously opposed to watching Hub New Music at the Bristol Art Museum, which I've also done. Um, yeah, I think that number one, getting to hear the composers speak um, about their pieces before we heard that's like a really nice touch that wouldn't necessarily. I mean, we'd get program notes, but it like actually seeing a video of them talking about their piece was really
Hmm.
nice. Um, and yeah, so I think we're used to seeing live music played on screens as younger composers. Like
Mm,
we have the ability to watch YouTube
mm,
videos and we've seen
mm,
tons of live music on there.
hmm.
Um, but what I really like about seeing a concert in person is just like you feel the energy of the musicians playing and you like really like you see their body movements and you can like really respond to them in person.
Hmm.
And I did feel like on this live stream that you still could do that. Not to it's sort of a different interaction, but I still feel like you can experience that.
Yeah, yeah. I have a follow-up from Mike on that issue, but just to cycle on to like the second part of my question is like, how do you feel about having your music kind of put into a larger concert environment such as this?
Yeah, I thought it was I feel like it's good for us young composers to be able to experience that
Yeah.
because it sort of shows us like yeah, we may be amateur composers who are just kind of working through our first compositions, but it's like really a testament to like your your music can fit in with this kind of repertoire just
Mm.
based on what we've been able to write
Yeah.
and compose, and the fact that we were able to have these four instruments that work together, how we were able to write something for them, even though they might be completely different than what the other two composers brought to the table.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we were also able to really take the components of this ensemble
Hmm.
and create something cool out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, both of the guys said pretty much the same thing I feel. I mean, it was great to have Hub New Music perform our music, and I definitely think the program was done well. Seemed obviously intentional, and they were definitely professional all throughout the way.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of having it compared or like contrasted with professional composers, it was almost like, I mean, at the same time, it is kind of intimidating, but also it's kind of validating at the same time. Like Logan said, if you're getting the same space as these guys, I mean, it's kind of, or guys and girls, it's also like a good experience because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously
Yeah.
they're further in their fields, but you know, it's a good experience at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So reflecting sort of back to Mike, and I don't want to, Mike, I don't want to keep you a tremendous amount of time. So just like, I mean, we could obviously chat about a lot of stuff. It's like informal, but I'm just a question, two questions I had for you. One was in the COVID universe, which thank goodness we are seem to be leaving finally. Um, and having to do virtual performances. And so like Logan said, there's a live the live performance. The audience can see and sort of get that feeling of the performers in the space, right? There's that energy there. But you as performers also feed off of the audience too. So how has that if at all changed anything about your approach to doing virtual concerts that are, you know, pre-taped, which has advantages, right? Because you know it's like, whoops, if you made a mistake, you can always, you know, do another take, as it were. It's like a recording basically. But how does it feel to not have an audience that is necessarily breathing in the same room at the same time that the music is happening? I think second, kind of pairing onto the question that I asked the students, is when you're performing student pieces on a concert that you're putting together, such as this, and you've got, again, you guys have done this, you know, at places all over the place. Um, what is it like for you to pair student works with, say, works that you've commissioned that, you know, I don't want to say like necessarily like the to use terms like pro and amateur, but you understand the dialectic there. Like, is it a thrill for you? Is it interesting? Is it challenging? I mean, what are some of the things as a performer and as an ensemble leader, that how that process works? I'm curious.
Yeah. So the first part of that, oh my gosh, my battery is. I'm good. I'm good.
It's okay.
I'm good.
It's
I'm
fine.
good on battery. I can do it. I've got this. Here we go. iPad. I'm good. No, I'm fine. So it's, you know, doing these digitally, you know, what we have been doing this whole season is that we go to the Boston Athenaeum where you saw the half the program that was filmed for tonight.
Yep.
We have our camera people, we have our sound people, and we
Mm-hmm.
sit and we do straight runs of every piece.
Mm-hmm.
And barring any catastrophic train wrecks,
Mm-hmm.
really that take is what we send to the presenter, because we try to preserve as much of these being live performances as possible. And there's a little bit of sound editing that happens just to kind of that particular space is very, very boomy. So we
Yeah.
actually have to,
Yeah.
in the post-production, we actually kind of
Right.
de-boomify it a little bit.
Right.
Thank God Scott is and his audio team is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without an audience, it's really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't it doesn't feel like a recording session at all, like you would for an album, because with an album you have that kind of extra level of security where you can repeatedly go back and do things, and the expectation is that you're going to be doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas with these, we try to do them start to finish, um, And unlike an album, there isn't a lot of editing. And if I make a mistake, it's just kind of out for the world on
Right.
YouTube to watch as many times as they so please. But
Right.
without an audience, there is a certain level of energy that you get from a room, and depending on the size of the hall, if it's a small hall where you can actually really see the folks and connect with them, there's a really great energy. These feel more like we're performing in a really large space,
Yeah.
where the audience will be further away from
Right.
us
Some
and they're kind of not
distance.
lit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
bigger concert hall.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of energy where we feel like we're projecting outward more than taking in energy, if that makes sense at all. And
Yeah.
if anything, these feel like taking an audition, where
Interesting.
you
Huh.
don't really have any engagement with the person who's listening to it,
Right.
and you were just trying to project as much musical character and hope that something is sticking on camera. And it's been a really great exercise for us because
Yeah.
it has forced us to be so meticulous about how we look, how we're projecting ideas. Does this dynamic come across? Does this articulation? Are we
Yeah.
getting that color?
Yeah.
Just like you would have that degree of almost like anal retentive preparation if you were taking an audition.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's been really helpful as we get ready to do more commercial recording projects, because we've been so used to having to really translate, and just have it only come from us and not really feed off the energy of a
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
said, I
Yeah.
also can't wait to actually
To
have
play in
humans in
front
the
of
room.
people, right?
And I also can't wait for like that moment when you're playing a live concert and if you make a mistake, it's done. It's over. You know, it's not recorded.
It's just gone. It's just,
It's
you
in
know,
the ether.
whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the second question about working with students. So when we work with student composers, it's always it's a wonderful experience, because we're performers, but we're also kind of teachers in a way, because we often workshop those pieces, and give feedback and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And we're often kind of making that benchmark, that barometer comes from our touring rep, of experiences that we've had that have been successful and some that are not as successful.
Yeah.
And so working in that way, it's a real challenge for us, because if something is working, we're like, oh, this is great, this is fine, this makes sense. If something isn't working, like if a meter is weird or an orchestration is weird, it really challenges us to think why something doesn't work or does work, and how we can problem solve and kind of work with what's given to us. And it's a really great exercise in deeply understanding how music functions. And it's really, really good for us. In terms of like curating, we curate the pieces just like we would, any concert of more professional commissions that we do, where we look at how these works interact with one another. Do they have a central theme? Do they not? Is there one that is more of like a banging opener, and one that's a little bit longer and meatier that goes at the end? We've been doing a lot of performances of student works this past season, and it's also been a really great curatorial challenge for us, because we got 7 pieces that we don't know we're going to get, or 3 or 4 or whatever, coming up with an order, like how does this transition. It's an exercise for us as well, and it's always a rewarding experience that I think keeps us on our toes, because when you play the same music over and over again, because typically in a touring season we only tour probably 2 or 3 recital programs a year, because we really like to live with repertoire. And so when we do a residency with student works and we get this music thrown at us, it just keeps us in shape, and it keeps us from getting kind of stale.
Rather than
and then we feel refreshed going back to the other stuff that we're touring again.
That makes a lot of sense. So before we let you go, we do have a few questions from our studio audience. So Aaron asks, hi Aaron, 2 questions. Maybe it's a 2-parter. I'll just read it. What is it like to hear your piece played professionally? So I guess that's for our students. And how do you begin? Interesting. How do you begin composing a piece? Do you start with an idea or a theme, or with a melody or something else? So kind of to make this as efficient as possible, Who wants to take the first question? What is it like to hear your piece played professionally? That could be everybody could gets a chance at that. David?
I think it's always like I think it's a really cool experience, especially because like you can do as much with the software as you want, but like you can't even playing instruments yourself or whatever, you can't really exactly hear what it's going to sound like with the exact instrumentation with live musicians who really know what they're doing with those instruments.
Yep.
So you're going to hear a lot of different things in terms of like the emotion that they bring into it, and you're going to hear lots of like um, you'll hear the individual behind the instrument, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Logan?
Yeah, I know that's definitely like a challenge I face when I'm composing, like just like trying to understand the way that I think it's going to sound by the people who are playing it, because you want to write something a particular way, but you really can't know the way it's going to sound until you hear it. So that's what was so helpful about workshopping the piece too,
Mm-hmm.
is just really getting like a 95% idea of what it's going to end up sounding like when they perform live.
Yeah.
So getting to hear it professionally definitely just like transforms the way that you intended to hear your piece, because you get to like really hear even just the way the musicians have interpreted what you
Mm-hmm.
wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh?
Yeah, I agree with both of what the guys said. It's definitely like one thing I noticed is that the musicians put a lot of care and respect into your work until like they'll make sure that the intent is clear, what behind what you want, and like that's definitely something that I didn't know was going into. Like they put a lot of effort into understanding what you put on the
Mm-hmm.
paper.
Yeah. Well, I knew that because I know these guys at Hub. I mean, everyone that I would have you guys work with, I would never put you in the hands of people who wouldn't treat your music with sort of the same seriousness as anybody else. And Hub is, they've they've done this a number of times, and they really, as you heard, right? They nailed it. And the other question is, and I think we'll just let one of you guys answer this, um, and whoever wants to answer this as succinctly as possible, is how do you begin composing a piece? Do you start with an idea, a theme, a melody, or something else? So I know the answer changes a lot depending on the piece, but any one of you?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead, David.
I honestly like for me again, like what McKinley just listed off. There's so many different ways that you can do it. I feel like when it comes to like a project like this, where it's like we are fairly free with what we can do. Again, the only limit is instrumentation, but like with that kind of project in mind, is just kind of in my case, it was like doing a bunch of like messing around with melodies on pianos and things I like, or
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how I want to work around instrumentation and like
Mm-hmm.
concepts that would be cool. But like playing around with a bunch of different ways to come up with like ideas and motifs until one of them just kind of sticks. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like how it sticks is never like the same way. So like it's hard to pick like one way to like approach composing music, at least for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have another couple questions. Zuri, hi Zuri, ask, uh, what are your career plans? And I guess this is probably for everybody, including Mike. What are your career plans or goals in or outside the music world? And so I think that Mike could answer that as perhaps maybe, where he might see himself or Hub New Music in, say, 10, 15, or 20 years. And then for the three of you, it might be a little bit more sort of short term, where you see yourself next. I'll let Mike answer maybe that if he wants to answer, if he has any.
What is my 5-year plan? I always say that my goal is to sell soup out of a battered Winnebago across.
Nice.
There's still time for that.
Yeah.
Outside of my soup Winnebago fantasies,
Mm-hmm.
we are about to hit a pretty large milestone as a group. Our 10-year anniversary is coming up in spring 23. Thank you.
Very
And we
cool.
have this really ambitious commissioning project coming for that that we'll announce soonish. And so the nice thing about our field in as a touring chamber music band is that our concerts get booked out pretty far in advance. So right now we're booked through I think the spring of 23, and our commission projects are planned through spring of 2024. And so a lot of what happens is that the timelines just kind of with the projects and the concert engagements,
Just
they go kind of far out, so you can kind of
yeah.
see what your trajectory is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as where we want to be beyond that, we really love what we do. The commissioning work, the recording, the performing, and we just want to be on this circuit as much as we can, and
Yeah.
always meeting interesting and brilliant composers to do collaborative projects with. We want to play a lot of music and record a lot of albums, and I think at some point, we've had discussions of what it would look like to have a kind of regular faculty ensemble and residence position, to
Sure.
be part of a community more regularly. We often come in and do very brief residencies like this one with Roger Williams, but we've thought many a time about what it would look like if we had an ongoing regular relationship that
Right.
were
Right.
more
Where you were.
consistently part
Right.
of a community, and what that
Right.
would look like for us.
Right.
But we're pretty happy. I mean, right now we're honestly just grateful to be employed during all of this.
I have to
So
say, yeah, yeah. I mean,
excited to get back on the road and
yeah,
keep doing the fun projects we have coming
yeah,
up,
yeah.
and also sell soup out of my
And sell
Winnebago.
soup out of. Well, I should point out for those of you who don't know, Mike is also really quite a wonderful cook. I get I'm an Instagram follower, my friend, and I get to see many of your creations when you do share them. So I never get invited, but that's I think just because I'm never close enough to eat the food. Of course, COVID also has put the kibosh on that, but you know.
Next time I see you, I will bring
Oh,
all kinds of goodies and baked things. I joined the sourdough bandwagon,
I
and I have a starter in my fridge. His name is Beauregard. He is the love of my life. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, cooking is actually it's interesting. I often think of cooking, and I use cooking analogies. I think you guys, the three of you, have heard me use cooking analogies when it comes to composing. Or anything of this nature. Too much garlic will spoil something, even though if you love garlic, right? That sort of thing. There's all sorts of cooking analogies there. Um, so let's see. Uh, do you guys prefer performing or composing? And I guess that would probably be for any one of the three students. I mean, Mike, have you written anything? Have you dabbled in composition? I know Alyssa has.
um,
Oh, the
I
diabolical
I had
laugh.
composition classes and lessons when I was really really young, like when I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
And I enjoyed it a lot. And it's something I wish I had pursued more, and I just didn't. That's probably why I like playing new music so much.
Mm-hmm.
But part of, I guess I can reveal this. Part of our 10th anniversary project is that Hub is writing the piece for ourselves.
Cool. That is
So
awesome.
that will be
I
that
look
will be a
forward to that.
journey.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, so you'll be able to answer that question after you write your piece for Hub, whether you prefer composing or performing.
Yes, ask me the question in 2024.
2024-ish, yeah.
That's how long it will take me to write 4 minutes of music for my
Yeah.
group.
I mean, so what about the three of you? Just if you want to quickly address that as I read, there's just a couple more questions, and we'll let Mike go. Performing or composing? Because all three of you also are performers and do performing, but somehow you've let me talk you into being composers, and you keep signing up for more classes with me. So I don't know why. I'm teasing, of course.
So I honestly I kind of go back and forth. This also kind of answers I guess a little bit of Zuri's question. So I also studied business here, so that's kind of more of a fallback.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to integrate business and music is cool as well. Um, but I always kind of go back and forth with like love for performance or composing, and kind of I think that they also really work well together. Um, I would say like the skills I learned from composing for like um, groups like Hub and like music I'm not necessarily as comfortable with,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really translates over well to writing music for that I could potentially perform myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they kind of go hand in hand.
Mm.
But like the act of composing versus the act of performing, kind of just go back and forth. Performing is always fun. So
Sure. Sure. Logan?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually writing a couple tunes that I'm working out for my senior project in music,
Mhm.
and that's sort of like the conjunction of like performing and composing, right? So I sort of like the ability, like Michael was talking about, to write something for like your own music, for like your own, for yourself and for other people that you're going to be playing with. I personally have more experience performing than composing. I like both worlds. They're very different experiences, and you learn different things from them. And what I like about being able to compose is the ability to work with professional musicians. Like I think there's a lot of value of being able to receive advice and
Mm-hmm.
just take with that lessons
Mm-hmm.
from
Josh,
working with them.
oh, sorry, Logan, I didn't. Josh, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, it's definitely like there's definitely aspects of it that are different. Performing, like having someone perform your music is interesting in a way that sometimes people will interpret it in differently than what you intended, and it's never really in a bad way. Like someone might play something and you're like, "Wow, I never thought of it like that way,"
Mm-hmm.
and then it might lead you to a new idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also nice to have someone else perform it because obviously you don't have to worry about you botching something up. It's not in your hands entirely anymore.
Yeah.
So like yeah, it's definitely nice to have someone else interpret your music in that way too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have last question and one comment. So the last question is, well, it's actually kind of related to the performer composer question is when your piece is played by someone other than you, does it sound different? I think it might also be experiential question, like, when you are playing your own music versus when, say, you're um, ceding your performance control to someone else, an ensemble like Hub, for example. I don't know, Josh. We'll go in reverse order. Josh, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, sometimes it lends itself to hearing new ways of interpreting your music, and
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely like it's definitely interesting. I'd say, to hear it interpreted like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Logan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add. I think it's just interesting that, any like you can just give the same music to 10 different musicians and they can all sort of like, yeah, they're like going to understand it mostly the same, but they're just all going to sort of, in another sense, there's going to be little intricacies of how they're going to play it as opposed to the next musician.
Right.
So yeah, just hearing your piece played by someone else, it's always going to sound differently by whoever else is going to play it, because we all just have our own way of reading the music on the sheet and
Right. Be the
what we
interpreter.
think of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. David?
I honestly I really can't put it better than I think Logan just did.
Yeah.
No, it's seriously just unique watching or figuring out how different musicians will play different things. Like I know all three of us play a little bit of guitar, but this also translates over to the stringed instruments like
Mm-hmm.
cello and violin, just as like an example. Like some when you people tremolo in different ways, or like
Mm-hmm.
might have different levels of airflow on a flute on like the same written dynamic marks. There's all these little things that go into making tone and sound how it
Right.
sounds.
Right.
Um, and then it's everyone interprets music in their own way as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. There are no more questions, but we do have one comment from Brooklyn who says, and thank you, Brooklyn. I don't have any questions, but thank you all so much for sharing your expertise. And yeah, Brooklyn, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching tonight. Um, this was really a treat to be able to do this. It's kind of unique because we normally, if COVID wasn't a thing, we would have probably wrapped up down at the Bristol Art Museum or something and had a little cheese and maybe some wine or whatever, and chatted outside as everybody packed up and went home. So this kind of, I think, gave. I think another thing, and Mike, is this also true? Have you reached a broader audience as a result of the online concertizing? I mean, I don't know if that's always necessarily true, but I'm just curious if.
It's interesting. When we first started this whole digital journey, we were originally like kind of concerned because we were like, well, if we have a stream that goes up with this one series in California one night, but it's a similar or the same program, because often, when we tour, we have the same program, we do it over and over again. And we're doing it in Arizona the following night. Like, oh God, is someone going to watch the free version in California and then not pay the ticket for the one in Michigan or whatever?
Yeah.
No. The only person who watches all of our concerts, regardless of what the program is or the zip code or ticket price, is my mother. She will
Hi,
text
if she's
me
still
to say
watching.
that she's probably here right now. She will text me to say that she preferred my Ito performance the earlier night. She is a harsh critic. We are finding that there is definitely a wider audience reach, because we'll track the views or whatever in a single concert will have a couple hundred views, and that's really exciting. But the audiences for them have been pretty regional because they're being presented by a series or a university or something like that. So it's a yes and no, like more people than we would pack probably in a single concert hall on one night, but not like going viral, reaching the masses on 7 continents.
Right.
Except my mother.
Right. Who would watch if you're in Antarctica? Right. Right. That makes sense. Well, hey, listen, that's what moms are for. It's that my mom would do the same thing, but she's probably watching the Red Sox or something like that. I don't know what she's doing actually tonight. I don't think she's watching though. But anyway, well, guys, this was terrific. Let's thank Hub collectively. Mike is the vessel through which we can thank Hub, but for I know Jesse was watching too. If Alyssa's watching, thank you all so much for your work and putting together such a nice concert for us to share with our Roger Williams community and hopefully some larger, other people as well. I don't know if Kati was watching, but this is great. And the composers, thank yourselves mutually, and I thank you for your work and writing such nice pieces for Hub to play. And it's I can tell you as a composer, it's not easy to finish a piece of music. And so congratulations to the 3 of you for your premieres tonight. And it was just really a treat for me as a teacher to watch you guys grow and to have this experience to share with you and share with everybody else. So with that, everybody at home, if you haven't, I'm going to switch views for 1 second here. If you haven't, leave me alone here. I guess that placard is still coming up with I think you probably know my name. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, I strongly encourage you to do so. I had my second shot over here. I got left arm, right arm. I need the L and R on my shoes to get vaccinated. It sucked the day after I got the Pfizer, but it's well worth it. And we are almost thank goodness, out of this mess. If you are not vaccinated for whatever reason, or even if you are, it's still, I hope you stay safe and please practice responsible social distancing. And hope to see you live at a Roger Williams event, concert, music event, maybe in the fall, hopefully. And until then, everybody, please stay safe and enjoy the rest of your evening and have a great rest of spring, summer, and 2021. Okay. Bye bye for now.